All right, welcome back, Focus Learners. Today, we're diving straight into a crucial explainer that is basically your ultimate high school study guide for Chapter 3 of George Orwell's Animal Farm. We are going to completely unpack the shifting power dynamics happening right under the animals' noses. Basically, we're looking closely at the massive gap between the facade of equality they've set up and the harsh, actual reality of what's going down on the farm.
So let's just quickly map out our agenda for the animals' very first summer. We're going to hit 5 key areas: the perfect harvest, meeting the workers, education and committees, the whole 4 legs good concept, and finally, the infamous milk and apples incident.
Okay, Section 1, the perfect harvest. So, at first glance, everything seems to be going amazingly well. I mean, the animals successfully pull off the biggest harvest this farm has literally ever seen. And get this, they do it in 2 whole days less time than Mr. Jones and his human crew ever managed. It genuinely feels like an absolute utopia. They describe every mouthful of food as an acute positive pleasure, simply because, well, it's finally their own.
Now take a look at this timeline. It's super helpful for visualizing the chronological flow of the chapter for your notes. We kick off in early summer with that massive, record-breaking hay harvest, which obviously sends morale through the roof. Then they establish this nice, predictable rhythm. Sundays are completely blocked off for rest, flag ceremonies, and big meetings in the barn. By late summer, the focus shifts over to reading and writing classes. But you really want to pay close attention to Otto, because right around the time those apples ripen, that perfect early summer cooperation starts to rot.
Because even during that supposedly perfect early summer, we get our first massive red flag. The text specifically notes, the pigs did not actually work, but directed and supervised the others.
Yeah.
The pigs are suddenly using their so-called superior knowledge to dodge physical labor entirely. They just casually declare that it's only natural for them to take the leadership roles. So right out of the gate, we're seeing a distinct class division forming, based entirely on intellect instead of sweat.
Which brings us to Section 2, Meet the Workers. Let's really look at how different animals are handling this brand new freedom and the actual day-to-day responsibilities of running a farm.
It's kind of like a massive group project, right? And you can see inequality naturally forming just based on work ethic alone. First up, you've got Boxer, who is literally doing the work of 3 horses, just pushing and pulling from dawn to dusk. Then you have Molly. We all know a Molly. Suddenly she's got a stone in her hoof whenever there's heavy lifting to do, vanishing for hours but coming up with, excellent excuses. And then there's old Benjamin, the donkey. He does his work in the exact same slow, stubborn way he did back when Jones was in charge. He never shrinks from the work, but he definitely never volunteers either.
But for your study guides, you really need to underline Boxer. Because for every single problem, every setback they face, Boxer's one and only answer is his personal motto: I will work harder. He even sets up an arrangement to wake up half an hour earlier than everybody else just to do extra volunteer labor. Now, obviously, his physical power and dedication are holding the farm together right now, but his total lack of questioning, that sets a super dangerous precedent. It's a textbook example of how blind loyalty is prime for exploitation. All right, moving into late summer, we hit Section 3, Education and Committees. This is where the real intellectual battle for the future of the farm kicks off, completely dominated by the 2 loudest voices in the room, Snowball and Napoleon.
Now, Snowball is absolutely obsessed with these wildly idealistic programs for the adult animals. He starts things like the Clean Tails League for the cows, or the Wild Comrades Re-Education Committee to try and tame the wild rats, which honestly goes about exactly as well as you'd think. It's a total flop. Napoleon, on the other hand, he plays a totally different game. He argues that educating the young is what actually matters. So when 9 puppies are weaned, Napoleon just takes them away from their mothers, locks them up in a secluded loft, and the rest of the farm pretty much forgets they even exist. It is a highly sinister, very calculated long-term strategy.
Now, while Snowball's committees fail, the reading and writing classes are technically a huge success. But look at this literacy breakdown by Autumn. The pigs can read and write perfectly. The dogs read well, but only care about the 7 commandments. Boxer, breaking his back trying to learn, literally cannot get past the letter D. Molly refuses to learn anything except the letters that spell her own name. And the sheep, hens, and ducks can't even get past the letter A. This massive education gap is exactly what sets the stage for the clever animals to easily run circles around the uneducated ones. And that leads right into Section 4, 4 legs good.
Because a lot of the animals simply lack the brainpower to memorize the 7 commandments, Snowball has to pivot.
You'll definitely want to know this term for any upcoming quizzes. A maxim. It's a short, easily remembered statement expressing a general truth or rule. Snowball decides he needs to condense the entire, complex philosophy of animalism down into just one of these snappy maxims so the illiterate animals have something to cling to.
And here is the famous result. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And wow, do the sheep love this. They adopt it immediately. They'll literally lie in the fields just bleating this phrase for hours and hours without ever getting tired of it. But think about what's actually happening here. By squashing a nuanced philosophy into a mindless chant, they are basically creating an echo chamber that completely stifles any actual thought, debate, or critical thinking on the farm.
Well, there was one minor hiccup with the maxim. The birds got a little upset, pointing out that, hey, we only have 2 legs. But watch how Snowball handles this. He totally weaponizes his vocabulary. He starts throwing around big words like propulsion and manipulation, arguing that a wing is actually a leg, and it's the human hand that's the real instrument of evil. The birds have absolutely no idea what those big words mean, but they just nod along and accept it anyway. It's a perfect example of intellect being used to bully others into compliance.
Okay, now we hit section 5, the milk and apples. This is, without a doubt, the climax of chapter 3 and the turning point of the whole story so far.
So, the animals naturally assumed that the windfall apples and that mysterious missing milk would be divided up equally, right? That's the whole point of animalism. But nope. The order comes down, they belong exclusively to the pigs. And when Squealer gets sent out to deliver his famous speech to smooth things over with the angry animals, notice something absolutely critical. All the pigs were in full agreement on this, even Snowball and Napoleon. It turns out, when it comes to holding on to their own privileges, bitter rivals will suddenly team up.
To really grasp what Squealer is pulling off here, you need to understand propaganda. It's biased, misleading information used specifically to promote a political cause. Being able to spot propaganda isn't just an English class requirement, it's a massive real-world survival skill. Squealer isn't just up there explaining a new farm rule. He is actively deploying weapons-grade propaganda to frame straight-up theft as some kind of noble sacrifice. Let's actually break down Squealer's psychological manipulation step by step, because it's a masterclass in gaslighting. Step 1. He fakes a sacrifice. He literally looks them in the eye and claims the pigs hate milk and apples, acting like eating them is this terrible burden. Step 2. He pulls out the fake science. He says it's proved by science that these exact foods are strictly necessary for brain workers. And step 3, when logic starts to fail, he hits them with pure fear. He asks, "Do you want Jones to come back?"
And that, right there, is the ultimate trump card. By dangling the ghost of Mr. Jones in front of them, Squealer weaponizes their shared trauma to completely shut down any complaints about equality. The animals are so terrified of the past that they just cave. They immediately agree the pigs should take all the best food, no further questions asked. The grand facade of equality completely drops, but everyone is just too scared to say a word.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one huge question to chew on. If the pigs are doing absolutely zero physical labor, yet they're grabbing all the best food by using fake science, fear, and manipulation, who is really in charge here? The humans might be gone, for sure, but the hierarchy? It hasn't disappeared, it just changed its outfit. The utopia they fought so hard for is already, very quietly, morphing into a dictatorship. Keep this in your study notes because coming up next on your timeline of key events, Snowball is going to introduce this incredibly controversial goal of building a massive windmill. And trust me, that debate is going to completely tear the farm apart. We will definitely unpack all of that next time. See you in the next explainer.